Hello everyone and welcome to the knowledge sharing session. This session is on progressive assurance and achieving stage gate 5. It will be delivered by James Field, who's one of our senior engineers within ITT. As usual every week, can we get a bit of etiquette out of the way, please, to start with? If we can have all mics on mute. And for the interactive parts, can we have the questions submitted by text through the narrative? If you'd like to address James or speak during the presentation, if you use the hand up function on Zoom, Vid will invite you to speak when it's right to do so. Again, the questions will be filtered by Vid and introduced at the appropriate slide in the presentation. So don't get frustrated if you're putting any comments or questions in, keep them coming and Vid will eventually invite you in. Again, it's all recorded, so we have a log of everything, and the answers and actions will be shared in due course. And again, if we all try and talk over each other like we have done in some of the Zoom meetings, it'll be absolute carnage. So last week, we learned what a great place BPR is to work and also to play. This week, James will detail the importance of progressive assurance and just how poor ITPs and MAIDs can have a detrimental effect when we're handing over projects back into maintenance. Again, we're using the shared knowledge and building on the wealth of specialist expertise within ITT and indeed TDU and helping to advertise how great we are and what we do. Just a quick reminder again that we do have the ITT Engineers YouTube channel, so all previous sessions are up there. This one will be up by close of business today. We have sent out a feedback questionnaire, so we're getting some good feedback from the sessions. Please keep them coming because it's good to spread the word and gain exposure for the interview and track team. We have a program set up for the next 10 weeks, so we've everyone lined up on their subjects, so that's good. Can we have please volunteers keep coming in, and I've emailed a few of you asking you particularly to come in and do presentations. I think you'd be very good at it. So after the more personable presentation delivered by our great ladies last week, thank you Amanda and Katerina. This one gets back to the basics of delivery and achieving stage gate 5. So anyone who has worked historically in any of our closeout teams knows just how arduous and mind-numbingly boring it is to do MAIDs day in, day out. We have lessons learned from track partnership days. We were very bad at closing out projects. So with our new defect-free delivery approach, we should find the progressive assurance approach easier with less outstanding dials and defects when we hand back to traffic on a Monday morning. So this will all go to help with making the ITT world class. So as every week, we do have a Kahoot interactive session. So it'll be a quiz as always. So if you can log on to kahoot.com or familiarize yourself with the app. The PIN number will be confirmed later in the presentation by Vid. So we've had some good crack on these quizzes previously, and people are very, very competitive on them, which is good. And last week we had a surprise. Charmaine from HR won last week, so maybe she's a secret PWA and train buff just like James. So feedback, if you can keep that coming in, suggested content, ideas to help knowledge share, and how to use this forum better to increase the collaboration across the wider business. So if you email me in the first instance, that would be great. So now, ladies and gentlemen, to the main event. So James Field presentation on progressive assurance and gaining stage gate 5. As we said, anyone who's working the closeout teams, we don't have specialized closeout teams, we have done in the past, and no one was volunteering to get into those because it is very, very difficult work trying to track down well records from 4 years ago. It's a minefield. So anyone who's working those teams will know the importance of a progressive assurance process, including accurate ITP and MAID completion. So James joined the rail industry in April 2006. He's an incorporate member of the Chartered Institute of Building, and he's also a very active member within the PWI. He joined Balfour Beatty via Burst Rail. He came into the Balfour Beatty family while he was working on Network Rail. He joined Track Renewals in 2009, working as a project engineer. He done a spell with the survey team. And then he came back into the project engineering ranks and worked predominantly on deep tube P&C. And the feathers in his cap include Walthamstow, Liverpool Street, Paddington and Camden. And also he works all the BTRs and PNC sites at the weekends as a site engineer. So he became a senior engineer in July 2018. And he's an experienced POA engineer, and he's absolutely integral to our works. And he just really loves trains, James does. Fun fact about James, also known as the POA professor or the nutty professor. James is a professional pyrotechnician in his spare time. He likes blowing things up at the weekend, which people find surprising, and is in direct contrast to his WhatsApp photograph, if you've ever seen that. So he allegedly blew his father's wheelbarrow onto the garage one day when he was testing out some sort of detonator or whatever it was. So allegedly being the key word in that sentence. So I know we have a few ex and serving special constables within the business. So on that note, over to you, James.
Thanks, Damo. Cheers for the introduction. So before I go into the presentation, I just want to quickly start on what that photo shows there. That's of Walthamstow. It's just to show you all our different stakeholders we deal with, how we all pull together and deliver a successful project. So in that photo, you've got the client, you've got the engineers, you've got the supervisors, the managers, signals, power, transplant. It's just to show you there how integral we all are on delivering a project as a team. That's one of the key messages is, you know, we are a team at the end of the day. So moving on to going through agenda of what I'll be talking about. So the agenda, what is progressive assurance? Just running through its definition, guidance and the legislation. LU pathway and the project life cycle, and finally stage gate meetings and their deliverables. And then secondly, who's accountable to all of this, namely a little bit just talking about this transition from track partnership into ITT. And lastly, opening to the floor, what can be improved on to make us leaner on the ways we deliver projects here at ITT. So, what's progressive assurance? So, to understand progressive assurance, we need to break it down into its sort of the two key words there. So, progressive. So, progressive as a definition is the happening or developing gradually or in a stage, proceeding step by step. And assurance is a positive declaration intended to give confidence. So in terms, we're giving confidence of a promise and that we can deliver that promise. So how do we achieve progressive assurance? We achieve progressive assurance by taking each stage of a project step by step and breaking it down into manageable and deliverable chunks. So to understand this, it's important for us to take a holistic view of this. So to take a holistic view of the rail infrastructure and look at it from a system level, okay, and how each group, or as I like to call it, dependencies, all interrelate to one another that form that system, how we all interact with one another. So when referring back to the photo of Walthamstow, you can understand you've got signals, you've got power, you've got transplant, you've got the managers, you've got our client, how we all relate in and interlink with one another in a system level on delivering a project. So what I've listed there is just primarily for BTR are sort of dependencies. So you've got signals, you've got traction power, civils, drainage, and of course maintenance. So moving on, like I was saying, in terms of a system level there, this is just an example from Camden's safety case. This just shows you the number of different dependencies. In this case, this shows a points operating system or a point machine. But it just shows you the number of dependencies that feed into a system. Okay, so you got the running rails, you know, with the wheel rail interface team, tunnels, drainage, civils, we all interlinked into the rail infrastructure. Okay, so moving on just in terms of for the definition, guidance and legislation. So how do we apply progressive assurance theory into a project and deliver each step. So with a system level engineering context applied, okay, it comes apparent that to deliver this, we need a delivery management tool. We need to adopt that delivery management tool on it. And that delivery management tool has to be measurable and provide confidence to all parties, whilst having the ability to be monitored and evaluated progressively. So, as I said, we break down each stage of a project into manageable chunks, and then the guidance and the legislation shown there, it ensures that we're following industry best practice, and more importantly, that we're compliant with statutory legislation. So you might be thinking, how is this all applicable to me? Well, it's applicable to all of us in any shape or form, okay? As delivery engineers, delivery managers, supervisors, we all manage a varying number of different stakeholders, and we all have that common goal of renewing a section of permanent way safely, to time and to budget, okay? So how do we achieve this common goal? So we adopt LU's pathway management system. It is their chosen delivery management tool of demonstrating progressive assurance, okay? Just dropping back to the guidance and legislation there, this isn't a exhaustive list, but it just shows you the primary guidance and legislation we adopt. So CDM regulations, they define our roles and responsibilities. ROGs, they provide a common and standardised framework guide to railway safety. LU's main Bible standard on assurance, 1538, that it's how we assure our works in respect to critical items at each stage, and how we complete them and then commence on to subsequent stages. And then lastly, what used to be known as the yellow book, I've noticed it's been updated, is how we apply the principles of risk assessment upon our works when we're dealing with the rail infrastructure. Okay, so as I briefly mentioned, LU Pathway. So this is the delivery management tool we use to demonstrate progressive assurance. And like I say, it's called LU Pathway. So from the intranet, Pathway it's an integrated and consistent product delivery-based framework, which we use to assure our delivery. It applies to all of TfL's investment program. So in our case, we are an integral part of Capital Project Directorate, under the disguise of track renewals, and then obviously our name as Integrated Track Team. So with the use of LU's Pathway, it provides us a common and consistent methodology following one assurance process with a clear goal of how we deliver across all parts of the business and provide confidence to our stakeholders that we are ready. So what's the benefit of all of this? So like I say, it's a common and consistent methodology following a single assurance process. It's aligned with industry best practice, and from my previous life working with Network Rail, it's aligned with Network Rail's what they call the governance for rail investment projects, or GRIP process. And what is shown there is each stage of the project life cycle broken down into key stages, okay? So for TfL Pathway, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 4, 5 and 6 shown there in the orange, okay? So moving on now, so those stages shown in orange, they are basically the project life cycle, okay? So it's a framework comprising of distinct high-level stages required to transform an idea of a concept into reality in an orderly and efficient manner. Okay, so for us in our daily work, it's primarily the lower blue section, the light blue section, showing the project life cycle. So from the start of benefits planning through to benefits realisation at the end of the project. And you can see there that each is broken down into manageable step-by-step phases. And that is encompassed into what we call the project life cycle. So primarily, we'll be discussing about stages 3 to 5, which is primarily what we deal with. Okay. So to understand our roles and responsibilities, there is high-level guidance available on the Pathway sort of intranet website there. So they define, like I say, the roles and responsibilities and what we should be producing at each stage, each step-by-step stage of the project lifecycle. So these manuals, they set out the key principles that underpin pathway and its objective of demonstrating progressive assurance. So how do we deliver a project? Okay, there must be a defined list of deliverables that can be tracked and traced throughout the project lifecycle, okay? So this takes the form of what we call a PPMP, or Pathway Product Management Plan. In essence, it's just the contents page of deliverables, and it applies across the whole of TfL, okay? So these product deliverables, they are agreed between the delivery team and key stakeholders, specifying what products are required at a particular stage in the project's life cycle. And we apply professional judgment using a risk-based rationale and assessment of complexity of the project we're delivering. And it's all subject to the project and program, okay? So the PPMP, that recommends the breadth, so number of interfacing dependencies that make up the project system, and characterization, which recommends the depth, so of each pathway project, so the number of documents that need to be produced. Okay, so with that, each product deliverable is then assigned an owner, which is then split down into those 4 sections there. So namely, you're either accountable, responsible, consulted, or just informed. Okay, so this provides ownership, okay, on the required documented sort of deliverables, on whether you, like I say, you're either accountable to it, that it's produced, you're either responsible for its production, you're either consulted, which is mainly for the discipline engineers, and then informed that it has been produced. So basically, primarily, that is our sponsor. So just going back, it's key to mention here that these deliverables within the PPMP, not all of them are always required. Like I was saying, we use our professional judgment and we agree with our stakeholders of what is needed to be produced. So for example, if I was doing a deep tube renewal, I wouldn't really intend to need a, say, an earthworks assessment report being done because I'm in the deep tube, for example. So like I say, these deliverables are then reviewed at each step of the project, okay, of the project life cycle. And these are reviewed in what we call a stage gate review meeting, okay. So what I'm just showing on this next slide, after how we do, of sort of how we do this, is an example there at a LU project level. I've just showing there the engineering side of things of what documents are created at concept and then are continuously updated. So for example, space allocation, it's the responsibility of the project engineer that it's produced, and the accountability is on the project manager that that document is produced. So for, and then for example, with the space allocations, they can be either created at stage 3 or within stage 3. So sometimes they sort of interlate back through. And then from our side as Balfour Beatty, for his principal contractor side, okay, this is at a project level again, but this is for us as a principal contractor. This just lists the items here, and primarily they are focused on health and safety, okay, on the delivery of a project. So for example, the health and safety file information, we're just consulted on at stage 2. And then it's continually updated throughout the project lifecycle stages, all the way through to stage 5 on delivery. The pre-construction health and safety file information, for example, that is created in stage 2 there, and then obviously continually updated all the way to stage 5. So that's how it sort of works step by step through each stage, being created and continuously updated. And that continually updating provides progressive assurance. So with the next slide, like I briefly mentioned, where and in what form do we review these documents, okay? So with these agreed deliverables, okay, how do we know that the produced documentation deliverables are correct and they're sufficient? And that is the purpose of these stage gate meetings, okay? They are fundamental principle of progressive assurance. Okay, we must provide a positive declaration of confidence that we, as a project, are ready to deliver. Okay, so from an LU stance, just in terms of this is to link back the legislation or LU standards from their assurance standard. The project lifecycle, it's a representation of assurance for the critical items that make up the project, okay? And we fulfill that by undertaking a stage gate review meeting, okay? It's a hold point basically between each stage of the project's lifecycle, so we can demonstrate that confidence to all stakeholders. So primarily for us, as ITT, we're involved with gates 3 to 6. So concept design, detailed design, delivery, and then project closeout. And it also allows us to reflect and review on the document deliverables with the sponsor to ascertain whether the project shall pass on to the next step or fail, with an itemised list of actions for us to address. So moving on there, onto the stage gate meetings and deliverables. So in addition to the deliverables from the PPMP, we as principal contractor feed in additional documentation, okay, which to support the PPMP. Okay, so for example, principal contractor at stage 3, we undertake the pre-closure meetings, complete our T-32s, working with any specialist plant. The follow-up TAMP requests have been submitted. We review all the TBI, the health and safety file information, and then going to LU as principal designer, completing the concept design statements, undertaking the concept interdisciplinary design reviews, doing all the detailed surveys, and then from the client or the project manager side, getting that PPM approved and obtaining that all-important gate certificate to allow us to proceed to the next stage. So moving on to stage 4, again, to accompany the PPMP, we as principal contractor, how we demonstrate progressive assurance. We complete our T12 walkouts with all our stakeholders. We complete our time changes, the train matrix, the staging diagrams, WPPs, and all our licenses and permits are approved. Fundamentally, project engineering from that side now, they become more involved. So with the principal designer, all our detailed designs are done, the final IDRs, the AFC design, engineering safety hazard logs if applicable, mainly for P&C, and all importantly for the client, stroke project manager, getting that gate certificate and PPM approved for that stage. And then lastly, moving on to stage 5 delivery. To support again how we demonstrate continual progressive assurance, the actual site delivery itself takes place. All the safety critical paperwork that we submit back at 10 AM, populating our maids, completing any follow-up TAMPs, completing the as-built surveys, drawings, doing the TRV ATMS reports, and the project engineer fundamentally approving that, those mandatory asset information deliverables, and then importantly, getting that Gate 5 certificate signed and approved. Okay, so moving on, why is Gate 5 so important to us? Okay, it confirms that we've met all our maintenance and sponsor requirements. Okay, it improves the whole life costing estimating and forecasting for future benefits. It's part of our contractual measure, what we call a service delivery indicator. Provides confidence that we are delivering at each stage of all sub-projects efficiently. And there's a benefit for both Balfour Beatty and London Underground there as well. Okay, that's why it's so important that we achieve our stage gate 5s. It is all measurable.
James, before we go move forward, there's a question that's come in.
Yep.
The question is, where in the stage gate process does the responsibilities fall from LU to ITT?
So we have a defined point with in between. So when we go to delivery, called stage gate 5 notice, which is the formal handover between basically once you've completed your gate 4, that is formally signed off. So in terms of documentation that comes to us, we review certain documents within the deliverables at stage 4, and then once we're ready, we're issued with what we call a stage gate 5 notice, which is basically our it's an assured certificate that allows us to commence onto delivery.
Okay.
I think it's over to you, Vid.
Yes, it is, yeah. So again, it's time for a Kahoot quiz. So if everyone can log into kahoot.it, I'll just share my screen. The pin number is, I'll just refresh it, 890099. Let me know if you can see my screen as well. Sam, John, oh, here they come. I'll just give it a few minutes to get as many players as we can. We're moving away from the TFL trivia today and going for something a bit more on subject in terms of stage gates. Wait for a couple more. There's it. Give a few people already. Give it 10 more seconds. Okay, let's start. So this is the Progressive Assurance quiz. 5 questions, hope you're all ready. First question, why are stage gate 5 so important? Is it to get paid, to complete the project and hand over, to keep everyone busy, or the way it sounds? I guess it sounds important. "22 answers. And the correct answer is to complete the project and hand over. 20 people got that right, which is very good. Let's have a look at the scoreboard. Jimmy in the lead. Well done, Jimmy. Quiz question 2. How many stage gate cycles are there? I think James gave this one away. Is it 1, 5, 6, or D? I'm not sure what D's doing there, but anyway. Give it a couple more seconds. The quicker you answer, the more points you get as well. 16 people got that one right. The answer is 6. So have a look. Rigor mortis has climbed the ranks. Anyway, question 3. What is the most important gate? Is it gate number 4, gate number 6, none, or all of them? "15 of you got it right. I'm glad to see no one picked none. The answer is all. Jimmy's still in the lead. Pradeep in a close second. Question 4, true or false, gate 5 notice and stage gate 5 are the same thing? Same, but different. 22 got it right. It is false. Let's have a look at the leaderboard again. Jimmy's still in the lead, but in a close second, Pradeep. Question 5, what does MAID stand for? Is it Mandatory Asset Information and Delivery, McLaughlin's Ambitious International Dances, Mandatory Asset Information Deliverables, or Mike, Ashley, Ivan, Dennis? Hope everyone gets this one right. 17 of you did get it right. It is Mandatory Asset Information Deliverables. Perfect. Let's have a look at the podium. In third place, we have Cam. Well played. And in second, we have Pradeep, which means, I'm guessing, Jimmy is number 1. Well played, Jimmy. I hope everyone enjoyed this quiz once again, and I'll hand it back to James.
Cheers, Vid. So, who is accountable? Okay. So, who is accountable? So, in essence, we're all accountable, okay, in some shape or form. Okay, so for example, the sponsor, they agree that scope definition, and that's reflected in that agreed Scope, plan, program, and budget. Okay, the project engineer, that's scope definition. Okay, that's detailed further into technical requirements. So they're exacting the renewal limits at that point of time. Okay, from the designer, that producing that concept and detailed design representation of those technical requirements, and detailing the interfacing rail system. So, for example, detailing the traction cabling bonds, signalling assets, any platforms, structures, things like that. Project managers, they're accountable that we deliver each stage deliverable in a timely manner. The delivery managers, delivery engineers, we're responsible and accountable for producing delivery methodologies and documentation that reflects and achieves compliance with that design documentation and overall scope. Even the logistics, okay, ensuring that site setup is sufficiently planned, supporting the welfare and the health and safety obligations we have to fulfill as principal contractor, and even the supervisors, ensuring that that scope of works is completed, delivered on site safely and within a agreed time frame. So when you take the concept of that rail infrastructure as a system and apply it to personnel that make up the ITT, you can see how apparent it is how we are all critical upon each other at each stage of a project's life cycle, and how we subconsciously, we all apply this and apply a progressive assurance method of working in our daily lives. Okay, so what's changed from track partnership to ITT? So in contractual terms, under the new contract, LU are the client and principal designer. So as client, LU has the contractual control. They appoint a designer, which is London Underground, and the contractors such as ourselves as principal contractor, and they determine the money, time and resources available. And then the principal designer, they're responsible for all design deliverables, approvals, assurance and concessions. And then this includes obviously the survey work, except for verification, TAMP, as-built, dilapidation surveys. So then Balfour Beatty, for us as principal contractor, we're responsible for the planning, managing, monitoring of the project delivery, and ensure that the work is carried out with no risk to health and safety.
James, another quick question. So obviously there seems to be a lot of information and a lot of paperwork. And the question is, what are we doing about reducing the amount of paperwork?
So I get to that just in terms when I open to the floor.
Right. Okay.
There is a program of works we are working on to reduce that, and yeah, I will briefly mention that in the next couple of slides.
Perfect.
So that's a good link, that. So what can be improved on? Okay, so this is mainly to everyone to give us your feedback if there's anything that can be improved on. But like I say, to coin the Tesco's, I like to start what we're doing at the moment, which in response to the question. So, but firstly, we should always, you know, since my time here, always reflect on the negatives and positives of a project delivery, okay, in the forms of lessons learned, and adapt and change our ways for continuous improvement. You know, no job on the rail infrastructure is the same, okay? For us to, like I say, learn from previous mistakes, like Damien was saying at the start, one of the tools we are bringing in now is Field 360, which is a it's a digitalized progressive assurance tool. It's not just used in the rail industry, it's used across all other parts of the sort of civil engineering industry. And what this ultimately will do is enable us to become leaner, okay? So primarily we'll be using this tool for stage 5 delivery, okay? But it's also to be used in stage 3 and 4, okay? So the concept and detailed design, completing our site surveys. So on the previous slides, doing our T32, T12 walkouts, doing them in a digitalized environment to make us leaner, okay? So this is to sort of, like I say, provide more, learn from the past, okay? So we were very heavily ingrained on producing paperwork. Okay, I mean, anyone can Google how much it costs for a printer cartridge and all of that. It's a lot of waste of money, and I know either at a senior level within Balfour Beatty, at Chris Otley level, they do recognise that we have to change our ways of working. But I leave this open to the floor. If there's any suggestions, anything in addition, please add your comments on the chat if there's anything else you'd like to add.
James, there is a question that that's come through. It's more of a clarification question. So Balfour Beatty acts as the principal contractor in ITT, and LU is the client as well as the principal designer, right?
So they do two obligations. So in CDM, they're the client and they've appointed themselves as principal designer. So from a CDM point of view, the client appoints the designer. So that could be an external person as well. It doesn't have to be an internal house. It's the fact that LU have got the facilities in-house. Obviously, they've got their own civil designers, drainage design teams in-house. So they don't have to, they do go external. There are design frameworks out there to external contractors, but from a CDM side of point of view, LU fulfil their client and principal designer duties.
Okay.
So in summary, so just pulling this all together, just giving you a couple of sort of 5 summary points, okay, of progressive assurance. So the rail infrastructure, okay, we work in, it's a system with a number of dependencies, okay. There are various and different dependencies that we rely on, okay. We all have that common goal, going back to that photo of Walthamstow, we all have that common goal of delivery, safety, and delivering it to time and to budget, okay. We're all accountable in some shape or form for each stage of a project life cycle, and we substantiate that with progressive assurance. And to achieve that, we adopt LU's pathway management system as our progressive assurance delivery tool. And also, it's key that we understand understand the importance of achieving Gate 5s. It's a measure of our effectiveness and progression of delivering projects. Any questions?
There's one that's just come in. It's more of a statement, I guess. One of the difference between track partnership and ITT is in previous years, BB also used to provide designs.
Yes. So yeah, we did previously have a framework between London Underground and Balfour Beatty Design. As part of the new contract, that wasn't re-engaged again, and the decision was made for all design activities to be done in-house. So yeah, that is correct. There was a framework in place with Balfour Beatty Design, and unfortunately in the new contract, that is no longer in place.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone, and I'll hand it back to Damien.
Thank you, James. I love the intro music, and the lab coat was very appropriate. That was a very informative presentation given by James. He obviously knows this element of the business inside and out. For anyone who doesn't know James, he's very approachable, and he's my go-to guy when all things engineering. He's always happy to help, even outside of ours, to be honest. So, and if James doesn't know, obviously the next line is Owen Stratford. But I think that's good. It shows that progressive assurance is an extensive part of the business, and it really is dependent on the detail we capture on site and how we feed this back into all this information into our business management system to ensure ease of handover and back into maintenance to the client. So knowledge sharing, it's a forum for continuous improvement through feedback. So promoting best practice, promoting success at the ITTs. So please keep all your comments coming in and all your feedback. And I do think we do have some absolute unique expertise within ITT, and it's good to share that. So I want to thank everyone who's completed the questionnaire that was sent out. Please keep those coming in, and anyone who hasn't filled one, if you could fill it in, I'd really appreciate it. All feedback, both positive and negative, obviously will help us improve this forum and improve the sessions going forward. I know I'm enjoying them. Next week, Vid will be able to give a bit of feedback on the questionnaires. So if we can just keep them coming in, get them in by next week, please. Next week, we have, I'm looking forward to this. So we have Gary Allen and Pete Brown, and they're going to do a presentation on site management. So I obviously emailed both the guys looking for their history, and it's like a Gary Allen, this is your life moment. So I got an email back from Gary, and he told me that he followed his father into the rail industry, who had worked for 34 years, and he's now happily retired. He started in the railway in 1996, and he joined Balfour Beatty in 98 as a trackman, and he's worked his way up. 2000, he was a supervisor. He went into the labour resource management. 2007, he worked on the KO2 project. When he was brought into the project, he was a semi-professional referee, and Joe Keegan told him he had to give that up because he had to work inside at weekends, which he seems to enjoy even better than refereeing. He's a big Neil Diamond fan, and he recently passed out as a speedway referee, and to this day he retains his grade as a semi-professional football referee. He joined Track Partners in 2012, and he says it's the best decision he's ever made. Pete Brown's This Is Your Life was a 3-word answer: 34 years Balfour Beatty. That's all I got from Pete, but I've done a bit of digging, and Pete has worked on the rails and civils. So the fun fact about Gary is he was a semi-professional referee, and he's a speedway referee. Pete Brown's surprising fact is, but he doesn't tell too much secrets, so he's a bit of a secret. I know there was a £100 reward on the B2F project for anyone who could figure out when he actually sleeps, and it was never claimed. So these guys combined have 60 years experience. I do know it'll be a very good presentation. I'll have HR and speed dial, and we'll have an expletive bleeper in operation, but I'm really looking forward to these two guys. You know, they've been a part of all of our successes and of some of our biggest dramas as well. So it'll be a good interactive session again, and love the input from the delivery teams coming in. It's good to touch base on a Friday with everyone. So please, everyone, keep dialing in, have a think, and keep the suggestions coming in. And thank you, and slán for now.